Okay, it is 10:03 and I call the meeting to order. We have a motion to move into, I need a mover and a seconder, move into camera, Marchie and Ian. Resolved that the board agreed to adjourn the public portion of its meeting in camera to discuss confidential items pursuant to section 44(2) of the Community Safety and Policing Act. All in favor, approved. Okay, so please go to your, I call the meeting to order. The open meeting, 10:30 a.m. And roll call, Jim Bruno, Mackenzie, Martin Bruni, Sonny Spina, Chief Stevenson, Deputy Duguay, Sarah, Lisa, Lincoln, Tina, not here, James, and Mr. Kelly. Welcome. And I didn't think, I don't, and Mr. Freeman, he snuck in here. So, welcome. Yes, let's do the territorial acknowledgement. We would like to begin by acknowledging that we are in Robinson Huron Treaty territory and that the land on which we are gathered is a traditional territory of the Shinnebec, specifically the Garden River and the Batchewana First Nation, as well as the Métis people. Any conflict of interest today? Seeing none, move to questions and information arising out of the minutes and not otherwise on the agenda. Please take a moment. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, adoption of the minutes and number 7, October 3rd, 2024. Moved by Ian, seconded by Marchie. Resolved that the minutes of the regular meeting as presented be hereby approved. All in favor? Motion to accept the agenda. Mover. Sunny, thank you. Seconded. Marchie, thank you. Resolved that the agenda of the regular meeting as presented be hereby approved. All in favor? Approved. Communication and reports. Information only, Chief. You're on number 8.
Okay, we'll start off with the board account ledger that's in front of you, and there was only accrued interest of 2 cents in the last August and September reporting period. Take you through the overtime. So what we're seeing here is if we look at July was 138, August was 117, September was 115 in overtime. This time last year, we were at 197 for September, so we did better than last year and consistent with August. When you look at our running total, we are relatively consistent with last year. This time last year at 977. This year we're at 1.05. So that basically tells us that our overtime is relatively consistent year over year in terms of definitely the fall and summer, but also in our running total. Next one is the 3-year monthly staff shortage. Again, we're less than August was 43,000. We're down to 30,000 in September, and we're almost half of what we were this time last year in 23 at 55,000. We look at staff shortage overtime costs. Again, we're relatively consistent with August being 35 and down in September to 31. The next slide, we're going to talk about overtime in court. And so for the court fiscal time, it runs September to September. So we have a full year of court there that we budgeted for 100,000. We actually spent 133,000, so we're 33,000 over. And we had some exceptional cases, and as you know, The police service doesn't control court dates or court times or when the Crown chooses to run a case. The deputy will go over some of those high cases that were before the courts.
So we're fairly consistently, these are going to be weapons charges and drug charges. The Scott being an exception, which was a homicide investigation, fairly well publicized, now starting to come to court. Majority of these cases were not, the arrests weren't made this year, they're just coming to court now. So I know Whitman was a drug project that was not coming to trial. Often those types of investigation, lots of officers involved in the investigation, they're all getting called to court. Defenses bring everybody in and then they sort through who they. So majority of those, one is a attempt murder, the other one is a murder. The three are drugs and weapons, large scale investigations.
Okay, any questions? Or deputy? Seeing none? Carry on, please.
Okay, so if you look at our spreadsheet here, we have 27% left in the budget. We have a quarter of the year to go, so technically we're underspent for the year if you look at our year to date. So we're underspent by about 3%, so we're on track with other years being sort of spending our money through the year appropriately. And obviously the biggest expenditure is your salary and wages. But good news in the sense that we're 3% under or 2.5% under at this point. So we have that buffer to the end of the year.
Question?
Okay, I'll take you to our statistics. And this will be a year to date for the month of August. So we're comparing August 24 cumulatively to August 23 cumulatively. And we see that our reportable occurrences are up 11%. Overall, total occurrences are 5.1% up. Good news on crimes of violence. We're down in all categories. Robbery is down 18%. Assaults are down 9%. Sex assaults are down 24% from 67 to 51. Also, IPVs unfortunately went up about 8%. In crimes of property, again, good news story. Break and enters are down 27% overall from year to date. Cumulative comparator. Businesses down 10, residences down 35, temp P&Es down 10. When we get into theft of motor vehicle, we're down 13% from 82 to 71. Our only increase, and this is consistent with last month, the crimes of shoplifting are up 32% when you look at it cumulatively, comparatively between the 2 years. Again, theft for motor vehicles down 26%, mischief down, and frauds are down 28 and 35%. If we look at Mental Health Act is up 25% from 336 calls to 422. That continues to be, people in crisis in our community. Bail violations are down slightly. Motor vehicle collisions are relatively constant. We go to IPV stats. There'll be a cumulative running total of since March of 24 when we put our new system in place. That's where we follow up every occurrence that has an IPV hinge to it. We phone them up. We ask them 2 or 3 days later, has there been any follow-up? Is there anything that you didn't tell us at the time? You need to tell us now. Is your safety plan up to speed? Do you have enough resources in the community? So 677 calls have been made, which generated 31 new calls for service and 8 individuals charged. That to me is a huge success on the IPV front because those 8 people would not have charged had we not had this system in place, which means we're doing more to protect the people in our community. I applaud the deputy and his team for getting this up and running so quickly, as well as maintaining a constant presence in the community, watching those occurrences, calling people if there's any vulnerability to IPV to make sure that they're safe 2 or 3 days after. Use of force. Relatively consistent between August and September. We had 8 in August, we're down to 5. Reports 12 to 10. Point firearms significantly reduced from 8 to 3. Total use of force, and the next page is sort of really insightful. This time last year, we had 134 incidents. This year, we have 79 year to date. So we're almost half in terms of use of force occurrences, which is really good to hear. Public complaints as well. This time last year, we had 48. This time this year, we have 40. So we're down about 8%, I believe, or 8 occurrences. And that is the package for the statistics, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions on any part at all?
Well,
Ian?
Mr. Chair, it's nice to see that some of the areas that we are working very hard on is starting to drop. It's nice to see areas where there's been a reduction, and it's also nice to see that our in relationship violence is being so closely monitored. And although it's busy, and the number of calls we're getting for intimate partner violence, obviously, we're continuing to keep the city safer with the follow-up coming from the police department on these incidents. But it's nice to see, with the exception of bail violation, which has gone through the roof again at 89, and the mental health situation that we have, it's nice to see the drops in theft down considerably in many areas. Residents, 91%. That's good. Is there anything specific that we're doing that's causing these dramatic drops in theft, Chief?
I think the level of enforcement, Vice Chair, has remained consistent. As thefts from vehicle break and enters occur when we're not there, and they have significantly reduced, but that's been displaced by, in my view, an increase in shoplifting, where they can simply walk into the store, steal the product, walk out, and that takes a lot less effort. And unfortunately, the statistics over the last 2 months cumulatively have shown that trend. And it's, I know Jeremy Stevenson in our specialty unit has been in touch with a variety of different vendors in the community to talk about target hardening their space, maybe not permitting certain people in that they know have had issues with theft in the past. But this is a societal issue. These are people that, I'm going to say it again, unfortunately, that our bail system and our justice system have to increase the deterrent value. There's nothing stopping these people from going in. They don't even try to disguise themselves because they're on camera, and they end up getting arrested within the day. The property's gone. They're given a court date or brought for bail, and they're released. And something has to change in the near future to stop this cycle. And I appreciate, the Star and the Sioux today have made this point known, but it continues and it needs to still be discussed, because folks, these are people that work all day to sell their products. And if there's nothing stopping people from coming in, stealing and walking out, we need to change that system.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sunny, any questions or comments?
Yeah, thank you. Just one. So I get we've talked at length about this issue over the last several years. I think we all understand where the issue is, basically at a federal level. Unfortunately, we're not the ones that are going to change that. We know that. So what are we doing at a municipal level to address this? What's within our control that we are actually doing to address this? Because of course, I mean, we're going to keep writing letters and doing what we can to get the system changed, but we can't change that from here. So what are we doing to adapt on our end to try and fight that?
Well, excellent question, Counselor. And as I alluded to before, our specialty unit run by Jeremy Stevenson and team have been proactively dealing with our community, with our vendors. Certainly, if they've exceeded a number of thefts that are just inappropriate for their business, they can contact the service, and we will go and do a full assessment, security assessment, a SEPTED assessment. We have 2 or 3 trained individuals here in that unit that can look at how they're controlling access to their facility, their video camera system, where high-priced items are being placed that may be put behind a counter so that the risk of theft is lower. There's a variety of things that we've been doing proactively for a number of years that can impact that. But at the end of the day, as you know, and I know, and this board knows, we've done our best to try and lobby for changes. So we're doing our part on the municipality side in terms of all the resources we have to target harden and crime prevention, but that only goes so far.
Marching, any questions or comments? Oh, sorry, follow up?
Yeah, just to follow up on that, through you, Mr. Chair, perhaps we can, what I'd like to see is a by who, by when. So what I mean by that is those numbers have continued to increase, month over month every time we get this report. I'd like to see those start to come down, and maybe put some bookends on that to say, by January, we want to see, X reduction, just some other proactive measures. Obviously, I know the chief is working hard to advocate at many, many different spaces and levels, and we're doing what we can to support him as well on the federal front. But locally, I'd like to see us adapt and change our response locally to try and bring those numbers down, because they just continue to rise. And as the chief mentioned, a lot of places are being disproportionately victimized. So not necessarily that we need to give direction on what to do, but just simply, that we'd like to see a plan for those numbers to come down by a certain date.
Okay, thank you. Marchie?
I echo the chief's comments regarding the shoplifting. It has increased. I think the chief and police services has been doing their job in the past, and they continue doing it. Educational, especially for the store owners. But I think we need to push it to a higher level, provincial, federal government. It's not working. There was an article in the paper. One individual stole from Walmart. They charged him, went to Canadian Tire, stole there. Then he went back to Walmart, steal again. 3 instances from the same person on the same day. So obviously we need to push us to a higher level, and we need to protect our store owners, people that own businesses, because this can't continue. The numbers can't continue to rise. Thanks.
Chief, do you have
Well, and I appreciate Sonny's comments and Mark's yours as well. And we will take a closer look. And I've never said that we can't do more. We can always do more. And I appreciate you lifting that rock, Sonny. Myself and my deputy and my senior command will look at it, and we'll come back with more strategies that we can put into the community at the municipal level to do our best. There's always something more we can do. We've had a variety of successes in different spots across the city, where, move along type thing, where people aren't sort of sitting in front of someone's business, stopping people from coming in. We're working very closely with that, but there's always something more we can do, and we will commit to that.
Yeah,
I have to mention, Mr. Chair, that over the last couple of weeks, I have noticed in the stores that there are more actual uniformed security people working for the individual companies, whether it's Walmart or Canadian Tire, and even down Queen Street. 2 young students, security, walking down just after the Greyhound hockey game. So I think the community is recognizing that there is a concern, and there is some investment getting made to try and reduce the amount of shoplifting that's going on.
Thank you. Unless there's any other comments, let's move on to number 10, service fees.
So, we want to bring this before the board. Our service fees haven't been changed since 2011. So that has everything from people coming in for background checks and whatnot. So I asked, my inspector Freeman to take a look at it and adjust those fees to make it more 2024. And specifically to make sure that the fees asked for basically cover the labor and the lights to produce the documents that the public want. So, we've increased those and I'll let Inspector Freeman speak to that.
Go ahead.
Morning, everyone. Just as an overview, some of the current fees, which would include copies of audio and video, like for third-party video, phone calls, and that's through FOI. We get a lot of requests and they want to hear what was said on the recordings. What we were looking at doing is keeping that fee basically the same at about $50, but we want to add on a redaction fee. As we all know, redaction requires a significant amount of time, and with body worn cameras and in-car cameras, now we're really into the redaction game, if you will. So continuing with that theme, we want to add a redaction fee of $15 per 15 minutes worth of redaction. That seems to be the going rate in the province. Now, keep in mind, a lot of services are in the midst of republicizing their fees and adjusting their fees to accommodate body worn camera and that. So that's kind of what we came up with for that specific section for fees of public services. Photographs, for example, most of those will be digital now and up through DEMS. We want to increase that from $28 to $50, just to keep it consistent with the fee for audio and video and all that, just keep the consistent fee across the board for whatever they want. Another example would be vulnerable sector records checks. We were in 2011, we were $15. What we want to do is increase that to $30. Part of the reason why is that it was cheaper for people to come and walk in and get a records check, and then tying up our clerk for 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, where we'd like to encourage people to use the online portion, specifically Forest Green, which is our records check platform. Now, Forest Green has a fee with that, so what we wanted to do was say it was $30 across the board, whether you wanted to do it online or whether you wanted to come in. So that helps to remedy some of the costs for our clerk that's working the front desk, and it encourages people to use the online portion that covers the Forest Green fee. Another example is regular criminal record checks, again, from $40 to $60 for the exact same reasons. And there's a pardons application report, which is not available online, but will be shortly, from $45 to $60. So not a huge significant increase, but again, mentioning that we haven't updated these fees since 2011. It's a considerable amount of time. Further to that, the use of police vehicles. We were charging back in 2011 at $30 per hour. I don't have to explain to you the cost of repairs for vehicles and et cetera now compared to 2011. We were going to upgrade that to $50 per hour. So the use of an officer is a separate cost, but if you want a cruiser, instead of $30 per hour, move that to $50. The big thing now in regards to body worn camera footage and in-car camera footage is we're going to be receiving a lot of FOI requests for the footage. As you well know, and we discussed in previous meetings, we have full-time DEMS clerks that are now taking that footage and have the capability to redact that footage and make it accessible for ROI purposes and for court purposes, but that comes with a cost. All over the province, many services are revisiting their fee schedules to accommodate body worn camera footages and in-car camera. Some of them are still in the midst, some haven't done it yet. I tried to use our comparisons, and the only two that really have adjusted their schedule so far would be Thunder Bay and Timmins. Thunder Bay is charging $250 per body worn camera footage video, plus a redaction on top of that. We were looking at charging $150 per video footage plus the redaction fee that I mentioned before, $60 an hour, $15 per 15 minutes. So that would be across the board for body worn camera footage, for in-car camera footage. Trying to remain consistent so that the fee was easy to follow as well. Another thing I'll add is in January of 25, there's a new records check being implemented through the Ministry of Children and Community and Social Services called a broad records check. It will be implemented in January. These are a lot more work, anything to do with children, where now we're not just doing the criminal records history and everything else, but any interaction with the police, whether through criminal proceedings or even mental health, will need to be disclosed, which will require a lot more work. So we're looking at $100 flat rate for those moving forward in January. And the only other thing that I'd add is reconsiderations for record checks. That's basically when someone believes that there's something on their record check that shouldn't be there. It's basically an appeal process. We didn't charge anything for that before. We now like to start charging $30 as a result. These are just to recover costs for our employee workload. Just to give you an idea through ROI, how it happens in terms of video footage, for example, the request comes into FOI or ROI for video footage. They review the whole video in its entirety. From there, it goes to DEMS. DEMS now reviews the whole video in its entirety, makes the redactions. From there, it goes back to FOI. They review it again to make sure the redactions are accurate. And if it doesn't have to go back to DEMS, then it goes to a second FOI person, so there's a second set of eyes. So in essence, minimum 50 times the video is being reviewed. And I'm sure you can appreciate how much time that takes.
Excellent. Thank you. That was excellent and very thorough. Margie, Ian, Sunny. Okay, I'm good.
Back to the inspector. How are we comparable to North Bay, Sudbury, Thunder Bay? Number one question.
And a great question. And I tried to use our comparators. Unfortunately, a lot of them haven't incorporated body worn camera fees yet or aren't up and running with them. The only comparators that I have that are essentially running with body worn camera fees are Timmins and Thunder Bay. Timmins is charging $100 per hour flat rate to review the footage through FOI or ROI. And again, Thunder Bay is charging $250 per video plus redaction. So I kind of put us somewhere in the middle, maybe the high middle.
I know other boards that I sit on, I'll use conservation as the example. They provide us a copy every year, and what are their recommendations? Is it 2%, 1% increase for all the services that they provide? I think it would be important that this comes back to the board once a year, get a copy and compare and what we believe the increases should be, because we should be treating some costs. And we don't know how much money comes back to police services with all these charges. Do we know?
Oh, yes. We would have a revenue generation piece in our budget that Angela would have for you based on fee schedules, yes.
Okay. Yeah, and that would be important.
That'd be good.
So,
And part of the problem that we've run into is it hasn't been updated since 2011.
and that's why it should come to the board once a
I
year.
think it's a great idea.
And yeah. Okay, thanks.
Ian, next.
I think we should start off and concurring with what the Marchie's saying. We should have a breakdown now as to the recommendations that we just got from Inspector Freeman, so that we've got something to look at maybe for our next meeting, just to check through and see what it is that we are proposing to charge them. And we only have the two examples, Thunder Bay and Timmins, and although the initial reaction is $250 from Thunder Bay, that may sound outrageous, but it would depend on how much work is involved and how much of an effort is required to show that video camera information off. But we need a list.
For clarification, then the motion states that we're going to pass it or not pass it now. You're asking for a delay till the next meeting?
Yeah,
Or can we pass it now and review the charges with the proviso that Marchie put forward, that we review them every year?
the thing is, if we're gonna charge them now, I can remember some of the figures that was given, but without sitting staring at them and knowing what the individual fees were. I don't know if we're in a desperate situation where we have to collect the money now, or whether we can wait till the end of November to see the actual fees and what we're proposing to charge and then pass it.
And it's my understanding that the fees that you collected are the most up to date in the comparable sections of Northern Ontario and Northeastern Ontario.
Right, we're somewhere in the middle, some are more of a higher end, depending, keep in mind, a lot of the service fees in other services haven't been updated lately either. We're all into new technology with body worn cameras, so I anticipate that most services will start getting on board with updating their service fees as they as they implement body worn camera and in-car cameras.
And then I just want to conclude with, later on, I think we should post on our website all of
We,
these that
we were going to do that.
so that the public knows.
Needed your approval first.
Exactly.
But is there any way we could get the board members a copy of that one sheet that you have that
By
went?
all means, I'll make out a spreadsheet showing the
Yeah.
Okay.
previous costs and the new proposed cost.
Okay, Sunny, next. Go ahead, Sunny.
Thank you very much. I'm going to build on a couple of things that Councillor Bruni already mentioned. First, I do support the increases. I think that's appropriate. 14 years is a long time to wait to increase something. The unfortunate reality, of course, when we wait 14 years, now we see large increases. I'm not really so worried about our comparators and what they're charging. The reason is I'm quite sure and confident the inspector, deputy and chief know our internal costs, and they know what it costs to obtain these documents or do these releases. So I fully believe that they're making costs that they're creating a fee schedule that is consistent with what our costs are, because they know those costs internally. What I would perhaps like to see, so we don't have to revisit it in this way every year, is maybe we can do a policy that says those costs will rise every year, consistent with CPI, or consistent with any new enhancement in technology or contractual obligation that the service has. So in other words, every time the fees of labor go up, the fees of these services go up. And every time there's a major technology investment like DEMS, the fees go up. And every year that CPI increases, we increase it consistent with that. That way, each year when this comes back, like Councillor Bruni said, this is a report for information only, and we don't have to have this debate over what the fees should be. We allow the service to manage those fees. And that way, you know, we're simply educated on it, but we're also not losing money year over year on fees that are disproportionate because we've waited too long.
Thank you, Sunny. Any other comments, Marchie? Ian?
I think we're in a position, as was mentioned by Inspector Freeman, this is new, you know, and we have no idea right now how long these various processes are going to take. So I think at least for the initial year or two, we will have to look at the fees that we're charging, and if it's covering the expenses that are out there. Right now, we're kind of estimating what these expenses are going to be. So at least I would like the next couple of years for us to review what the fees are and why.
So you're asking that we move it to the next meeting with, and the following information would follow. With
So I can commit then to give you a nice spreadsheet. I'll give it to you in advance.
Please.
It'll be in your package. You can take a look at it. We can have open discussion there.
Okay.
Transparency, and sure.
Well, as long as we, Mr. Chair, as long as we get the spreadsheet, we may very well be able to do, which we've done in the past. If we all agree that the spreadsheet is reasonable and acceptable, then we could notify the chair, and he can notify
Sure.
the powers that be, okay, go ahead, implement it, rather than having to wait till the end of the month.
So
You've seen it, you say it, we agree with it, and it goes forward.
okay, so new resolution would be to move that we
We'll just defer this until
Defer.
the board has had a chance to review the document.
right, all in favor? Sunny, you're good with that? Yeah. All in favor? Approved. We'll bring that back next meeting. Yeah, thank you. And thank you, Bill. Very, very good. Next meeting is November 28th.
Oh, wait, sorry, John.
Oh, yes.
We discussed the next meeting date. We've
Oh.
had some changes.
Okay.
So, due to the board members attending the OAPSB Labor Conference that's happening at the end of November, we're proposing to have the board meeting the week before on November 20th. We're concerned with,
Yes.
you getting back in
Yeah,
time.
if the
we don't-
flight didn't work for you, you wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Any objections to that? Are you okay with November 20th?
I believe that's a Wednesday.
Good.
We'd be sticking with our Wednesday
Aren't you?
schedule,
You're good?
10 a.m. Okay, good.
Okay, let's go with that then. If there's anything, next meeting date, November 20th, 10 a.m. Mover to adjourn, Marchie, seconder, Ian, resolved that the meeting is now adjourned. And thank you all.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Tom?
Yeah, if I may, before, now the meeting's closed and before the members disperse, I need to remind the members about the need to complete the thematic training.
Yes. Very good point.
I'm
Tom,
not gonna,
I'd like to comment. It's very difficult to get into it to complete it. Just to let you know.
I found that too.
yeah, I'm not, you're not alone in dealing with some technical issues. So hopefully those can be overcome prior to the next meeting, because if you haven't completed it by then, you can't continue to exercise your duties.
Yes.
Well, make
Yeah.
sure we have access. So,
We'll hit the wall if need be. Are you saying you're having trouble getting in, or you can't get in?
I'm having trouble getting in. It took one night, it was 2 hours just to get in. Like, that's not normal. No,
I didn't get it. I gave up.
well, no, I didn't finish it because I couldn't get in. 2 hours on it.
Okay,
Is it the logging in process, or is it the actual, when you're in there, you're trying to get one of the training pieces to work?
Logging in and the training piece.
Okay.
was that at or near the September 30th date? There might have been a sudden rush. I recommend you try it again, see if you have a better chance at it. I completed it when I returned from vacation on October 12th, and I didn't have any difficulties then.
I think the difficulty is just the logging in process is a bit complex to get into it. Once you're into it, it's there. It's a lengthy lesson. Like there's a lot of training there, but it was just the navigation, so to speak, to get into it. Sarah, you sent me some screenshots there. Those were beneficial. Maybe we could share.
Okay.
Maybe we can share that with the board, and that would help the navigation.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Tom. We will do our best. If we need some help, we'll give you a shout, though, okay?
Yeah,
I'm
please.
showing now, Sarah.
We'll call you at home.
That's where my phone rings.
Thank you. The meeting is adjourned.